Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning to you, Dwight, and to you, Chester. I want to go back to two of your previous calls, but just before I said, where you just began to describe what is called the orange economy, often referred to as creative, is one of the greatest assets that we have as we move into the new global digital economy. Now, that's a big D, because oftentimes when people talk about the digital economy, there's a small d and there's a big D. The global economy is more of the big D. If you recall, over a year, we've been waiting for a response from last year, June to now, the Recovery Committee that actually touched on, identified simply that we were going to go into the green, orange, blue, conceptual, digital, and knowledge economies. We have yet to see that particular plan being released or announced beyond the synopsis that was given. But when you look at the Progressive Liberal Party economic plan along with their blueprint for change, I think these are huge potential for Bahamians to basically diversify. And I think if we understand, and because oftentimes people give a lot of lip services to these various definitions, and if we actually understand each one in its own economic silos, and look at the 6 different economies, and then look at the sub-economies that comes under each of them, we could very easily create the 90,000 jobs that we need. The problem is that we often read these manifestos, then we sit around and wait for a small select group of people to execute it, as opposed to becoming economically enticed to want to know more of what it's in individually and collectively. Just use an example, your caller who said about the disabled individuals. This is one of the greatest failures, I think, of this administration, is the Ministry of Education. And I don't care how it is marketed. It has failed and it's collapsed. Are you there?
Yeah, we're listening.
Yeah, it's failed and collapsed. Here's why. This was the greatest shift in global history. And we failed to create a rudimentary system for exchange of information between our younger generations and even those people in the workplace, as well as the handicapped people or whatever you want to call them. Because this is the greatest move towards the knowledge economy and the other type of economic models if you understood what they are. So what we did is we came up with a facade to pretend we have this education system that's able to create the shift of the skill sets, of the new skills and everything else. And so if we actually fix an actual digitized education system for delivery, we could then begin to actually people but share the information that's necessary for them to be properly prepared to go into these economies. So I see a huge potential if the Progressive Liberal Party accompanies this plan with a corrected education delivery system as opposed to the facade that we have here, calling it e-education or whatever it is that we want. And so, but even when you talk about the other caller where he spoke of the foreign investment, yes, we've done it wrong. We've been calling foreign ownership foreign investment. But what happened in this exact same shift is the unique opportunity for Bahamians now to reach global resources. So we can now move to owning the economies using these various models that we have. But again, it requires a quick, rapid education system on breaking them down, breaking on the subcategories, etc. I would tell you that 80% or 90% of the current administration does not understand this. Personally, for you guys have heard me advocate over the years, even when the PLP was in power. I think re-electing this government will authenticate what they are doing because they will believe they are doing it right. And I think for me personally, and I think for the rest of the Bahamians, we should at least at minimum consider a change of government and capturing the new government on day one to making sure the things they promised are done as opposed to waiting for them to do it. And I'm just saying, we are in a crisis. You guys have heard me say this over and over again. And this is the greatest opportunity, and the doorway is opening for a new shift of economic dynamics in the Bahamas. And if we miss this opportunity, we will pay for it in decades. And so I'm simply saying the problem is not the FNM. The problem is the leader of the FNM. And if they don't change the leader, I honestly believe we as Bahamians must change away from the FNM and look at the things that the PLP has put on the table. When they do, we could come back to the conversation hopefully in the next 2 weeks. But as it stands right now, I believe the plan they put out is an excellent one.